Hello everyone, welcome to our fourth module of International Strategy. My name is Anthony Santino, and I will give the rest of the course in International Strategy. So before we start, I think it's worthwhile that I introduce myself briefly. So as I said, my name is Anthony Santino. You have my email address on this slide, so you can obviously contact me if you have any question. You have a link to my LinkedIn profile and my profile. But let me quickly introduce myself. So, like you, I did study at HEC Liège. So I graduated in 2005. So it's 15 years this year. So time flies, indeed. And after that, I directly start working at Deloitte in financial audit in Brussels. I did that for a bit less than 4 years. Very good first experience, but I soon realized that it was not really what I wanted to do. I was really attracted by strategy. Um, and moving from audit to strategy consulting is not always easy. So what I did in 2009 and 2010, I took a 1 year MBA at Health International Business School. So I studied 1 year in Boston and Shanghai, got my degree, and directly after I start working in strategy consulting at Roland Berger, where I climbed up to principal. So Roland Berger is one of the largest and leading strategy consulting firm. You have the three big players, obviously McKinsey, Bain, BCG, and then we coming just after. And just recently, I've left Roland Berger. I'm now a consultant at Egon Zehnder. Egon Zehnder is a leadership consulting firm. We're doing executive search, but also a lot of coaching and leadership development. Because I have, on top of strategy, also a passion for people and human capital development. So that's quickly about me. You have all the information you need, and do not hesitate to reach out. Also, if you're interested to discuss any future career move, I'm always happy to help. So today, as I said, is the fourth module of international strategy. And we're going to talk about internationalization, so really going international. So that's really a specific but important kind of market development, something that we have seen with Natalie in the previous class. It's really how do you operate in a different geographical market. It's very important, and therefore we'll spend one class talking about it. So obviously, I will not record today the full class. I think it's not relevant. So what I will try to do is really to highlight the important messages. And obviously, I expect that you will read every slide carefully and that you will come back to me if you have any question. I've tried to prepare very detailed and thorough slides, so there is a lot written, but it means that if you read everything, if you understand everything, you should have covered and understand all the material. So I will not read all my slides, which I might do if I would be with you for 3 hours, but I will just highlight the key messages. So just a short introduction before we start in the class. So if you talk about international strategy and going international, obviously there is a strong link with globalization. And globalization, it's sometimes a word, an abstract word. There are people who approve it. They praise its contribution to economic growth and standards of living, the fact that we can share technology and more extensive cultural exchange. And then you have critics that argue that globalization undermines wages in rich countries, exploits workers in poor countries, and give multinational way too much power. And obviously, on both sides, you have pros and cons. And obviously, with the crisis that we are experimenting at the moment, we will obviously rethink about the way global trades it's organized. But if you look at recent figures, and if you look at this graph, you see that today we're really living in a world where global trade flows are strongly interconnected. So you have a lot of flows going from Asia to Europe, from Asia to North America, to Europe. And within Europe, obviously, and especially for a country like Belgium, you need international markets to create value. So maybe in some instances we've been too far, and maybe some production will be relocalized. There will be a lot of things that will change after this crisis. That's for sure. But let's not forget that we rely and that we still live in a very international economy. So as I said, there are very different views on globalization. For young people like you, globalization is often first and foremost the internet and the information and communication technology that comes with it. It's not as easy to chat with your friends at the other end of the world as you were sitting in the same room. But just imagine going through the current crisis just 5 years ago. Without all this technology, I would not even be able probably to share with you this class remotely. So that's so the accelerated pace at which technology is spread around the globe. It's clearly an important aspect of globalization, and in my views, it's a very positive aspect of it. But you have other views. A second one, it's associate globalization with the rising power of multinational and the growing inequality around the world. Many people feel that they are losing control over their lives as a result of forces unleashed by globalization. There is a third one. A third one is that unskilled workers appear to lose out, at least in relative terms. On the other hand, you can also argue that increased global trade allows greater specialization and greater synergy of pooling resources. So, as I said, it cannot be black and white. And as university students, you need really to wait and to assess the pros and cons of globalization. There will always be a certain level of international exchange needed, but in some instance, indeed, consuming local and producing locally can also have strong benefits. And just to open up your mind, globalization is clearly not something new. If it's been a part of human history, and people have been trading over long distances for more than five millenniums. And you have traces of international trades as far as in the Phoenician empires. So clearly, it has accelerated with the Industrial Revolution in the 19th century, booming recently, and maybe we will go back a bit, but it's not something new, and that's the way we are, right? So a few definitions, I will not read them all here, but please take the time to read them because those are important terms for us. But really, international business is really about business engaging in international, so meaning cross-border economic activities, and the activity of doing business abroad. So keep that in mind and knows those examples. It's really important. So a few more figures, keep them in mind. Nothing critical. So clearly, a concept that is closely associated and related to globalization is the concept of BRIC for Brazil, Russia, India, China. But you see, since the last few years, that there are a lot of other countries that are emerging, and we use sometimes some other acronyms to relate to them. You have the Next 11, so countries like Egypt, Indonesia, and Mexico, the MINT for Mexico, Indonesia, Nigeria, and Turkey, or the MIST, Mexico, Indonesia, South Korea, and Turkey. So just that you know that today globalization goes far beyond BRIC, and that you have a lot of other countries that are shaping the landscape of emerging markets today. And clearly, as I said, we did not wait for the current crisis to question and to challenge the concept of globalization. And the most famous one is probably Donald Trump with this America First. And actually, if you look at his presidency, he has broken a lot of trade agreements, and he has clearly favored his country over the others. And actually, we don't know what will happen in November. Will he be re-elected or not? But you see a lot of declaration going in that direction, and that's why, as students and as young people for the future generation, you need to keep your mind very open and know that not everyone will share your views, and it's really important to be balanced on that. Okay. I will stop this first recording for the introduction, and then we will jump into the agenda of the session.